Welcome to Zooming to Webinar Success. Your host is Grant Holmes, and his clients call him the Webinar Guy. Grant is a busy virtual meeting manager and on-screen host with a team of professionals ready to help you plan and produce your next virtual event. Learn tips and tricks to having successful virtual meetings from step one. And now, here's your host, Grant Holmes, the Webinar Guy.
Welcome to an anniversary episode of sorts, episode 30 of Zooming to Webinar Success. Hey, I'm Grant, and as you might know, my clients call me the Webinar Guy. And a special shout out today to Jane Wing for our new voiceover introduction. You can hit Jane at janewing.com for a great British voiceover. Jane, thanks for a great job. We appreciate that. Today we're going to talk about planning your big webinar or virtual summit, and this is part 2. We'll talk about the pieces, parts you'll need, so stay tuned. Now, in the last episode 29, I talked about producing larger webinars and how that might be defined. And if you missed it, head over to thewebinarguy.com and look for episode 29. As I mentioned in that episode, here at the Webinar Guy, we're often involved in large virtual events. These events can be large in many different ways. And what are those ways? It's all about numbers. The number of speakers planned, the number of days it will span, the number of staff required to take care of myriad details, and of course, the number of dollars you'll spend for all of that. By the way, the numbers are all interrelated. I talked about overusing the word multi because you need multi of just about everything. So, what about the webinar or virtual summit? Whatever you want to call it, it will be constrained by two significant factors: the size of your audience and the size of your budget. And quite frankly, it's all about the budget. Before we dig in too far, a word from our sponsor, our webcast and podcast sponsor, thewebinarguy.com. Yeah, that's me. When you decide to approach your first big webinar, you plan a large multi-dimensional virtual summit, and think you need assistance, we have many resources and would love to help you. Hit me at webinarpro@thewebinarguy.com or visit our website, thewebinarguy.com, and use a contact form. We'd love to work with you. Thanks for listening to my commercial. So, define big already, Grant. Alrighty then. I define a big webinar or virtual event when it just flat can't get done by you alone, and likely maybe not by even 2 people. Can they be done like that? Yeah, yikes, but not if you want to sleep. So, what might you need? First, take a look. A real, honest, frank evaluation of what you can actually do on your own. Know what your gifts and capabilities are and make an honest assessment of what serves your summit or event. And now fill that in with those that can do other things around your gifts. Let's start at the beginning with marketing the event. So what do you need? How about a web designer or webmaster to post your event? Well, they need to integrate with platforms like Eventbrite to post or create Zoom events and all that stuff. Social media posting. There's a specialist in every field, and this is no different. You may need someone with knowledge of each single platform for best practices and keyword usage and more. How often will they post? Are they paid ads? Is the budget made for that? Can that person or persons interact well with your speakers or their staff to market them into your event? Script writing and editing. Maybe you've got a script and you just need someone to look at it for clarity. Maybe it needs written from scratch. I get many scripts to record for clients that you can tell were written by the person that is the subject expert. So it's really detailed, and then at the same time it steps right over points the audience really needs to know. And quite often I can tell they wrote it and never proofread it. Slide deck creation and editing. Well, repeat that paragraph I just said about script writing. I've gotten slide decks where the expert flat skipped over an important slide or two. But the other problem with inexperienced slide deck creators is using all the cute bells and whistles that will ruin a professional presentation. We spend a lot of time normalizing animations, removing animations that aren't needed, and more. And we end up adding graphics that better explain processes or expressing the appropriate emotion for that point the speaker is making. Back to speakers. Who else is going to speak? Who will interact and help to manage them, their notes, their slides, and as mentioned, possibly work with their staff? Event coordination. Who's going to track all this and manage all these people? Tech coordination. Who's responsible for set completion? If a simple virtual event, you may just use a room that you already have. See episode 17. What do you need to be ready? What about the sound, the mic, and all that? Your speakers and camera? Well, if you want more, just go hit episodes 15 through 18. And oh yeah, make sure your computer is ready as well as your internet connection too. Software. Do you have someone to check your computer and know that all of your software is working and will play nice on presentation day with the platform you're using for your presentation? By the way, a word of caution on updating your software because the publisher said it was a new version and that can run faster and jump higher. Well, just last month we had to roll back 3 of our packages to the point where they would, again, play nice. I'll just say it'll be a while before I upgrade stuff that's already working. Do you need other programs like OBS, WhatsApp, Skype, Discord, Zoom, or another platform installed and working? WhatsApp, Skype, Discord are great for off-platform communications for your team during the event. Get everyone in a group. What about the moderator? Depending on size, you may need 1 or 2 folks to monitor chat and the Q&A box, assign breakout rooms, set up the show polls, remove trollers, episode 23, 24, and 26 if you would like more information. What about the host right here? Usually 1 host is sufficient, but if you're doing sections, you may want a different host for each section. So say you're doing a section for, say, a Latina speaking attendees and have a host that speaks whatever language and or looks like that might just matter. What about post or after the webinar? Who all from the list above is needed for follow-ups, sending thank you notes, following social posts, follow-up social posts, and other web-related activities? You just had a great webinar. Don't let the energy die now. It's a lot to consider, and I think I hit most of it. But what is a big webinar? I think I was on a team of 8 recently that I know of. With the help of the webinar team at thewebinarguy.com, we are ready to jump in and help where you need us. So, this series is for smaller organizations and solopreneurs that may not be tech savvy, don't know all the steps, or don't want to know all the steps. And over the series, I'm going to lead you through the significant decisions and capabilities you'll need to Zoom to webinar success. If you have a subject you'd like me to cover, please subscribe and then drop me a note or comment. And as always, if you need help now, don't hesitate to reach out to webinarpro@thewebinarguy.com. Thanks for watching. We'd love to hear your questions and comments. Don't forget to tell a friend or two. And if you're listening to the podcast audio, thanks for listening.